This is a lecture from Open Tuition. To benefit from the lecture, you should download the free lecture notes from opentuition.com.
Continuing on this chapter, we begin to look at brands. And a brand is a unique name, title or symbol which identifies a firm or a product. And many brands, we can look at a symbol and we know immediately what it is. So, for example, we know, really what a shape like this is probably going to be indicating something like Mercedes, for example. Another doesn't say anywhere what that is, but another one that we might look at on cars is one a bit like that. It will be blue and black, and that will be BMW. And nearly every company has some sort of a brand identifier or brand name. And the important thing about brands is, first of all, when if you're buying, say, supermarket products, if you're happy with a brand, you don't always go through a kind of rational buying process again, where you carefully evaluate the different products. You tend to reach for the brand, reach for the package that you identify, and kind of subconsciously you say to yourself, well, that was okay, last time I've always been buying this, and you really don't go through the purchasing pluses and minuses to the same extent. Secondly, they are, as it says here, powerful differentiators associated with the brand are, for example, quality. So it could be a differentiator which says, as both these would do here, they are relatively expensive, but they're kind of smart upmarket executive type vehicles, and so on. If you come across a car brand like it's something like this, it's not a very good one. I'm trying to draw the Toyota one. Then you know that it's probably good quality. It's not as expensive, but it's certainly a very kind of solid family car, which you're going to be getting at. So the brand is always associated with certain qualities of the product, and again, it helps if you're developing a new product onto that brand. That sort of feeling goes with it. So if Mercedes is producing a new car, then there will be the feeling that this new car is probably a good vehicle. If you are a car company, maybe say Seat. So Seat is a kind of division really of Volkswagen. Seat cars are made in Spain. Seat cars are very good. They use a lot of Volkswagen parts and so on, but they are very good value for money, and good quality and so on, but good value for money. So if Seat wants to launch a new car, then the people who are looking for decent cars at a keen price will be attracted to look in Seat garages. The only thing we're left on brands really is what's known as e-branding. You have the old-fashioned brand, if you like, that's seen on the product, that's maybe seen in newspapers and so on. It's what maybe people have been used to. And now we bring out a kind of our e-trading type of process as well. What do we do with the brand? And really there are four potential options here. You can make no differentiation at all between what you're offering in, say, a conventional shop or outlet and what you're offering over the internet, and that's fine. Sometimes there might be slight differences. You sometimes see products which are available on the web only, because one of the things that may be almost one of the disadvantages of web trading is people expect products bought on the web to be cheaper, because they know you're not having to pay rent for your shops. So maybe what you do to satisfy people's craving for a better deal, you brand it slightly differently and you've got slightly different models available there. It could be completely different. So in the UK we've got HSBC, if you like, it's a conventional bank there, and we also have a bank called First Direct, which is part of HSBC, but it has no branches whatsoever. It is purely an internet bank. And they have decided to keep these brands completely separate. So people who want the internet banking don't need a bank manager and so on, just go to First Direct, whereas people who want the traditional banking will go to HSBC, and there's no chance of kind of confusing what the offerings are. And finally, there is potential partnership with an existing brand. If an existing brand has got a very powerful presence online, then maybe instead of setting up your own brand and a separate website and so on, you get into a partnership with them and maybe sell your product through them, kind of piggybacking on their powerful brand name. Big data. Big data are extremely large collections of data that are going to be analyzed to reveal patterns, trends, associations. The organizations who started big data really were supermarkets. In particular, in America, supermarkets like Walmart and Target began recording data about their customers' purchases, and they managed to do this because of loyalty cards. So as you're checking out, you swipe your loyalty card, it's going to be recording what you bought, and will record all your purchases maybe for about 5 years. So these are very large collections of data. If most customers are loyalty card, they make several visits a week to the supermarket, the amount of data which is being accumulated is very high indeed. But then you get enough data that you can do statistical analysis on it. You can begin to see trends and patterns and associations and so on. And the hope is that by understanding these trends, that you can latch onto them really, and you can make bigger profits. Big data is said to really be the 3 V's, maybe the 4 V's, but we'll start with the 3 V's here. Characteristics given by Doug Laney. First of all, there is huge volume, as we've talked about here. And the volume is such that it actually requires specialist IT type approaches to handle this and manipulate this vast volume of data and to actually extract something useful from it. Secondly, the velocity at which data arrives and changes. So if you think in a country there are maybe 200 branches of a supermarket, think of all the checkout places which there are, people kind of continually going through that, particularly maybe on the Saturday morning, shopping day morning, something of that sort. There's huge amounts of data, and you need very, very powerful processes to absorb this data, to store it away efficiently, and to keep basically the database up to date. And finally, there's a huge variety of data. It's not all just numerical data, as we'll see. There can be numerical data, of course, but there can be data maybe to do with position, geography, and so on. There can be data in there which is to do with facial recognition and the like. And again, the amount of processing which is required to deal with a very, sometimes it's said to be unstructured. Data is not just so many units and such a price giving such and such a sales price here. You've got that, but maybe you have the time of the day at which it was purchased. Maybe you have information about the shelf the product was on when it was actually purchased. You have information maybe about the person, what other kind of areas in the shop this person kind of visited, and what other products maybe they looked at before they decided on buying this particular product. So volume, here we have example of volumes, retailers, loyalty cards, We've also discussed it, gathering intelligence through your activities on a website. You can look at people's activities on social media like Facebook and Twitter. You can look at the likes they have maybe for a particular product. You can troll through the Twitter accounts and look for any mentions of your product and so on. Mobile phone companies, huge amounts of data. Who did you ring? How long did you spend ringing them? Where were you? Because if your phone is on, the mobile phone companies know exactly where you are. And of course they can then begin to, if you want to, they can then begin to send you texts as maybe you're passing a particular restaurant or shop and say, by the way, there's a special offer on here that maybe you want to go and see. Variety, let's just look at some of this here. Graphical information such as photographs. Companies are experimenting in facial recognition, so that in a way you don't need your loyalty card with you. They recognize you as you come into the shop, and then they can find out what you were maybe interested in buying, and again maybe text you special offers as you move around the shop. There can be oral information such as voicemails. Voice recognition and understanding what people are saying can be used in big data to see what products maybe they were discussing there. If you take Rolls-Royce here, Rolls-Royce, its engines, keep transmitting continually back to Derby diagnostic information about every jet engine they've made. And what Rolls-Royce can then do, it can process this and maybe analyzing a particular vibration within a certain engine. They can anticipate when parts in that engine need to be replaced. And they provide us as a service to their customers. The customer doesn't want the jet engine to break down. Certainly not on the air, but on the tarmac. It doesn't want to have to withdraw the plane because a fault has come up. And if Rolls-Royce can say, in 10 hours flying, you really need to replace this bearing or whatever the part is, then it's going to add great efficiencies to the airline service. So there we have, just some of the variety of data which is going to be held on this big data. What do we do with it? Well, there's data mining. You look at trends, associations, patterns, and so on, and you try to draw conclusions. It's called data mining. It's a bit like gold mining. There's not a lot of rubbish in there, but every now and again you'll get a nugget of something valuable, and you'll see that when people buy product A, they often buy product B at the same time. Well, maybe what they should be doing is bundling those products, or at least citing them close together in the supermarket, so that it makes it easy for people to purchase them. Predictive analysis here, trying to predict what might happen. Airlines will know, for example, from their experience maybe of a particular passenger, that sometimes they go business class. Not always, but sometimes maybe they push the boat out and they go business class. So what would happen now then if somebody booked economy class, and you kind of know at the back of their mind they maybe quite like to go business class, but maybe they can't justify the expenditure. What would happen perhaps if you were to offer those people a little special deal, a little upgrade at a special price? And if you had spare seats in business class that nobody's going to pay for anyway, then better maybe pushing that person or offering that person, for a payment of $100 or something. For this flight you can upgrade, and the marginal income is the $100. Text analytics, looking at text and emails, trying to understand what's being said in messagings and so on. Voice analytics, as we've talked about before. Statistical analytics. For example, it is said that Google can trace, say, influenza epidemics or chickenpox epidemics better than health authorities can. Because if you know there's a bit of a flu outbreak in your area, and then you come home and you've got a bit of a headache, not feeling a bit achy, bit feverish, what many people will do is they'll go to the internet and they will type in something like flu symptoms or flu remedies, something of that sort. And because of the size of the operation, if in a particular town they will spot that there are more and more queries to do with flu, then they know, well, there's probably a lot of people feeling a bit under the weather in that town, and so the flu epidemic has reached them, and this can be long before they go to the doctor to get professional help about their illness. Finally, big data dangers. It can be very costly. We've talked about the huge volume and variety and velocity of data. We've talked that you need special IT techniques, very large machines and so on to store the data, so there's a real cost associated with it. We have to be careful to comply with regulation. There's a regulatory risk here. We're holding a lot of personal data, and many governments have rules and regulations which stipulate how personal data can be used and how it can be transferred to other people in other countries. There is the problem of loss and theft of data. Hackers coming in, accessing people's buying habits, accessing people's credit card numbers, accessing maybe people's addresses and so on. It's not great if a hacker comes in and discovers when you're on holiday, because probably your house is going to be empty then, and it's quite a good time to be a burglar. Veracity. We talked about 3 V's. Velocity, we talked about volume, we talked about variety, and sometimes veracity. Veracity means truthfulness. If you're recording data inaccurately, really, then you're not going to be able to derive from that accurate predictions or conclusions. So it's very important that we have some feeling that the data that's being recorded is accurate. If we're actually doing facial recognition, that it's spotting the right person. And the final one that people talk about a little bit is employee monitoring. This is monitoring employees at work. So if you can, maybe because of an identity badge which has got a kind of a little transmitter in it, so to speak, you can trace where anybody is at any time of day. You can then begin also to trace, well, person A met person B and they were talking for 10 minutes, or they seemed to be together for 10 minutes, and kind of what were they talking about? Should they actually be communicating at all? And so on. You can monitor, how long somebody is, say, taking to go to the lavatory and the like. You might be able to monitor. They might actually be monitoring speech there, and there is a potential kind of fear. I don't think anyone monitors speech in a minute, but there's a potential fear that this can become extremely oppressive on employees. This kind of spying on them continually is not a great thing to be doing.